P thinks she is falling in love with Bill and tries some moves, and her husband knows this all along but hasn't said a word. My husband Will and I have been married for just over a year and have been together for 4 years total. When COVID lockdown began, Will's brother Liam asked if he could come stay with us as his roommate is an essential worker and he is high risk. Before this, Liam and I knew each other but definitely not well. We'd met probably under 10 times. But since he moved in, we've been spending a ton of time together and alone. My husband is a lawyer, so he's holed up in his office most of the day. Liam and I are both technically still working, but work has kind of dried up for both of us, so most of our days are free time. Liam's been living with us for over 3 months now. The first week Liam moved in, I was struck by how similar we were, much more so than my husband and I are. We have a similar sense of humor and similar interests, and I'd say our overall energy is very similar. He also looks a lot like Will, except since we got married, Will has gained about 30 pounds. Liam, on the other hand, is very, very fit. You get where I'm going here. I don't know Liam well enough to know for sure if he's flirting with me, but it certainly feels like it. He laughs a lot at my jokes, teases me, and drops everything if I suggest we do something together like go to the store, play a game, whatever. The way he looks at me also feels very affectionate, and occasionally intense. We spend a lot of time tanning in the yard or in the pool, so we're seeing each other half naked a lot. The sexual tension, at least on my end, is through the roof. My sex life with Will has also been flagging, which doesn't help. We've also gotten emotionally close. We have a lot of late night, usually drunk or high talk alone, because Will tends to go to bed early. We share a ton of inside jokes. We text, even though we're in the same house. When I see his or her name on my phone, I get that giddy feeling in my stomach, like I do in the early courtship stages of a relationship. I guess I didn't recognize the extent of the problem until last week. On Wednesday night, I had a very vivid sex dream about Liam. I woke up incredibly horny and initiated sex with Will, but I was thinking about Liam the whole time. I felt so guilty and disgusted after. Then, on Friday night, we were all drunk, had put on music, and were just dancing stupidly. Liam and I kept dancing when Will went to bed, and it got a little heated. We were jokingly grinding and rubbing up on each other, except it didn't really feel like a joke. Since then, I keep having these thoughts of, like, what life would be like if I'd met Liam instead of Will first, or what Liam would be like as a husband. I talked to Will today about possibly asking Liam to leave under the guise of needing more privacy and more space for our relationship. Will was kind of taken aback, since we get along so well, and more or less shot down the idea since Liam has nowhere else to go. I feel like I'm dangerously close to having an affair if what's happening now doesn't already count as cheating, and I don't know what I can do. Any advice is appreciated. Thanks. Edit. I woke up to this post having blown up. I'm trying to read every comment, but it's a little overwhelming. To clarify a few points. 1. I don't know if this really matters, but a lot of comments have glommed onto this point. Liam and I both work and are both earning our regular salaries right now. I make more money than Will. There's just less work right now, so we have a lot of free time. I may be shy in other ways, but the leech narrative is false. Sorry. 2. I'm not sure if I want to stay with Will or if he even wants to stay with me. Our married life has been rocky, even before all this, which we've talked about and tried to address to no avail. Liam reminds me of what Will was like while we were dating, not just physically. I was trying to say this in a comment but was sleepy, and it came out jumbled and kind of the opposite of what I was trying to say. But our married life also overlaps significantly with a really chaotic and stressful time in the world and in Will's work, so I'm not sure if these problems are just temporary. 3. I am not considering physically cheating. I'm just afraid that if we're in the house together all the time, the situation will only worsen. Example, my feelings get stronger and it becomes harder to cut off. I recognize now that I definitely need to stop getting drunk or high with Liam, but I'm not sure that'll solve everything. I would appreciate advice on how to cut things off tactfully. 4. I assumed this was par for the course for this subreddit, but the names used here aren't their real names. I'm clearly SHT at coming up with aliases. I've booked a therapy session for myself, and I might just spend the day alone to reflect and really think about what I want. Thank you for taking the time to comment, especially those of you who have been kind. Update. TLDR, I don't know what the F is going on anymore. God, where do I begin? I spent Monday out of the house and talked to Will on Monday night. I started off thinking I wouldn't mention Liam, so I was saying stuff about how I miss spending one-on-one, quality time together and suggested doing a date night next week. He said, yeah, he knows, but he's so busy these days, sorry. I told him about my therapy session, how the therapist thought it'd be helpful if we did a session together, and that I'd like him to join next time. He was like, oh, maybe. Why are you going to therapy? I told him that's what I wanted to talk to him about, I'm scared by how I found myself feeling lately. I feel like I've started to doubt our marriage. I'm not being the wife I wanted myself to be, etc. He didn't say anything in response. Against many Redditors' advice and probably my better judgment, I told him I thought I'd developed a bit of a crush on Lee. That's why I wanted him to leave. I told him about how we kept dancing after he went to bed and how wrong it felt. I didn't mention anything about my feelings possibly being reciprocated. He said he knew. He saw it on the Nest Cam. I didn't even know there was a Nest Cam in the living room. Then he was like, honestly, I really don't care who you F, but effing my brother would be a little awkward for the next family get-together. I was speechless. I told him I had no intention of effing his brother and that it was a crush that got out of hand. He didn't believe me and claimed it was just a matter of time that he'd been spending more time in the office to give us space, whatever that's supposed to mean. Then he accused me of having sex with a slew of other men, my friends and coworkers, his friends and coworkers, and his best friend on our wedding day. There's literally video footage of my every move that day. He didn't believe me when I denied it. But he also said it doesn't matter whether or not it's true. He kept saying he always knew it was just a matter of time. There's like an hour of this kind of back and forth. Then I asked him if he even wanted to work on our marriage. He went, I'm actually pretty happy right now. I feel like I can't even begin to describe this interaction accurately. It was like talking to a wall or an alien. I told him he's acting really weird and asked him again to join me at therapy. He insisted he has nothing to talk to a therapist about. I eventually told him that if he doesn't think our marriage needs work right now, then it isn't a marriage I want to stay in. He goes, it's your world, baby. I'm just living in it. At this point, it's like 4 a.m., so I'm like, maybe you're just so tired you're delirious. Let's go to bed and pick this up tomorrow. So this morning, I tried to initiate conversation again. He says he has no time. He's running late to a meeting. He goes to his office and stays in there with the door locked all day. He came out once in like a 14-hour span to grab food and go to the bathroom. Liam also stays in his room all day, so I'm wondering if Will said something to him. I saw him briefly around dinner time and apologized for how I acted on Friday night. In the grand scheme of things, that conversation was very normal and uneventful. I said something along the lines of I think I let the alcohol get to my head and I acted inappropriately. It won't happen again, sorry. He was like, oh yeah, I guess that was a bit much and retreated back to his room. I wait in mine and Will's bedrooms. He comes in at 2 a.m. and when I try to talk, he goes, babe, do we really have to talk about this right now? As if I'm just trying to discuss what color to paint our walls or something. I start to cry. And for some reason, he takes this as a cue to try to initiate sex. I say no, and he starts getting a little pushy and talking about impregnating me. So, I got out of bed, and now I've just been on this couch for the past 3 hours trying to figure out what the F is going on with my marriage. I'm just more confused than anything. Given the response to my first post, I don't know if I'm really looking for advice anymore. I just thought maybe writing things down would help me figure SHT out, and people have been badgering me for an update. Sorry, this wasn't the ending you all were hoping for. Edit. This will be my only edit, and only attempt to defend myself because I feel like I'm getting judged based on false assumptions, although maybe it's my fault for being unclear in the original post. 1. After reading some comments, I'm walking back what I said about emotional cheating, but I'd still like to leave some clarification here for context. I was not confiding in Liam about things that I would normally talk to Will about. When I said we text, I meant that we send each other funny things we see on the internet, and not anything that could even remotely be described as intimate. Although we did have several heart-to-heart conversations late at night, they're conversations that I could have had with any other close friend. Example, our ambitions or our family history, and I would have been perfectly comfortable with Will being there. 2. I'm getting a lot of heat for the grinding. Maybe the criticism is fair and my moral compass is just totally off, but I don't think it would have been that bad had I not been harboring feelings for Liam. It was the kind of jokey, over-exaggerated grinding you do with friends. At no point did my arse or crotch make prolonged contact with Liam. I know for a fact that this type of dancing on its own isn't a boundary in my relationship with Will because I have seen him dance in the same way with friends when we go out. 3. F all of you who are taking the time out of your day to send me hate. A way to kick someone when they're down. I mean, I hope you are as morally inculpable and your lives as perfect as your internet persona might suggest, but the fact that you're sending anonymous hate indicates that that's probably not the case. Edit, if it's not clear, I mean people telling me to end myself and calling me all kinds of names, not those who are leaving actual feedback or advice that are critical of me or my behavior.